Seeing as though it is Autism Awareness Month, I wanted to do a video talking about my personal stories about having Aspergers Syndrome. And sorry, my focus is out because it's hailstorming outside, so if you do hear clanking, it's that. Aspergers Syndrome is seen as a mental disability which is also on the autism spectrum, which affects people in different ways in their daily routine, how they live. Diagnosis! I was first diagnosed with Aspergers Syndrome at the age of 6 years old, when both my parents and my school teacher in year 2 thought there was something a little bit off about me. With me, it was more the case like I just couldn't sit still. I was always fidgeting, always changing the way I was sitting in my position, or little things like that. I always had to be active. A little habit that my mum always brings up is the fact I used to just play with her hair when I was sitting next to her, and at first there was nothing thought of it because they thought it was kids being curious or whatever, but it was a constant habit, and that was to do with stress mechanisms. Now, because that is one of the traits of Asperger's syndrome, people will have repetitive actions in order to help them calm down and relax, and when I was younger that used to be a thing with me. I got taken to see a specialist, as I was referred to by my teacher. They came out and said that Scott has Asperger's syndrome. It was a bit difficult to take in because Asperger's syndrome wasn't necessarily a big thing in the United Kingdom at the time. I remember the doctor saying to my parents that Scott would not be able to amount to hardly anything in his life. It will limit me mentally, which will stop me from achieving in school, life, work, or just anything. And a lot of those things were right for a very long time. I found it very difficult to maintain friendships because I could only talk to people one-to-one, or I always liked my own company. That's just the way it was. Whenever a lot of the boys in my school were going to play football, I was just always in the corner just thinking, I don't like sport. I just didn't want to do football because I just didn't like the idea of just socializing or interacting with so many other people or coming into close contact with people, let's say. Another big thing I struggled with was eye contact. Now, you've probably gathered I'm talking to a camera now and I'm making eye contact with the lens, but it's not a person. Yes, it does look like an eye. Wait, I'm not talking to Hal from Space Odyssey, am I? As someone was having a conversation with me, and this does happen to me on occasion now, if I'm not confident enough to make eye contact, I will literally look around the room and focus on other things, I'll look over there or notice something there, and then people will literally pinpoint me and say, oh, you're not listening to me, are you? And I literally respond with, yeah, I am listening, I'm just not looking at you. And that would come across as rude, but in my brain, I can process the fact that that might come across as rude. It's hard to process and identify from right or wrong. I will always remember this story, and my mum always laughs at it. She literally just said on a whim, it's oh, I really don't want to see anyone today. I've got so much to do in the house. And literally, there was a knock on the door, and it was one of my mum's friends. And literally, I opened the door, and I literally just said straight away, not hello, it's my mum doesn't want to see you. And I'm like, great move there, little me. Great move. That was just one of the things that I struggled with, was identifying what to say to people and what I couldn't say. Because, again, that's why a lot of people might have considered me rude or inappropriate, just because of the way I conducted myself and just said what was on my mind. Throughout school, I did find this very difficult, especially in class, in certain subjects that I found not that interesting. Just typical subjects like maths, science, and all that sort of stuff. I just didn't find it interesting at all, so I found it very difficult to take in information, not because I didn't want to learn, I really did, but in my head it was just information just wasn't retaining because it wasn't something that stimulated me, let's say. There was subjects like English, which I did really enjoy, even though I wasn't the best writer, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I really liked English because I was able to tell stories and do a lot of writing, and we were analysing books and stuff like that. So that's why I think I really enjoyed books and comic books now, simply because I just like the idea of getting lost in these worlds and identifying the way text is written. I was taken out of certain classes to attend literacy sessions. This was basically a room with me and probably 3 other pupils, maybe. I always got very, very angry and frustrated because I couldn't understand why I was being taken out of normal lessons. I thought, why am I being taken out of lessons? What, am I not intelligent enough, or am I not smart enough to be with everyone else? So I got very, very pent up and upset. Oh, I haven't done anything wrong. I don't want to be taken out of the lesson because I haven't been naughty. That is what I was thinking when I was younger. I kind of wish I hadn't been with everybody else now, because like I did face bullying quite a lot. And I know that's a cliche, but it's true. Like, I got bullied quite a lot in both primary and comprehensive school because I just didn't know how to interact, and then people would say stuff to me. I might say something the wrong way, and then that would just give them ammunition to bully. Even though there were some hardships with Asperger's in terms of having friends and learning in certain subjects, I love performing. Like, I love acting, I love drama, I love going to see shows and all that. And I found that through school. Like, because like my drama teacher said, oh, why don't we have Scott come into the drama classes as his third option for GCSEs, because that way it will build up his confidence, and then he might feel a bit better about himself conducting and working with other people, because obviously with drama you do have to work in a group. And I did find that very difficult at first, because again, there were people in the class that didn't like me because I just said things as they were, and again, being seen as inappropriate. I loved the fact I got this chance to be creative and just get lost in all these other characters. That's why I love film so much, because like I'm just able to get lost in these worlds and just channel my thoughts just into what's happening on the stage or on the screen and forget about everything else. When I was in school, I had one-to-one support because of my Asperger's. I'd be able to work one-to-one with a classroom assistant, so that the teacher would be able to like scan the room and do their normal job, and I would have this one person helping me specifically. And one of these women got me to audition for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, as it was the school production. And like, again, it was the whole thing of, let's see what he can do, let's get him to boost his confidence, put him on the stage and all that. And I went in thinking, okay, yeah, I'll do this. Can I just be like a tree or something like that? Or can I just be an Oompa Loompa and just walk off after a second? And I remember them announcing the characters, and I literally thought, oh, it's going to go to this guy because he's like the straight A student, the typical pretty boy and all that. It's like, okay, he's going to get it. And then literally, I found out I got it. And I was like, what? That is what just spiraled my love of performance even further. Like, I went to college and specialised in drama. I went to university to study acting, which I am chuffed about. Like, the fact that I was told I would never pass a GCSE exam, I managed to get a BA Honours in acting, which I'm so chuffed about. Employment was very, very difficult for me, like, because it's always hard for people with Asperger's and autism to hold down a job sometimes. I did go through like a number of jobs, and some of them I just couldn't hack. I worked in a supermarket, and it just I just couldn't hack it, because there was just an overload of information, and there were so many different areas to the job that I just struggled to do. Like, even when I was on the till, like I sort of reverted back to that younger me, where it was just like, okay, eye contact's going everywhere because I'm not sure of myself, and it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I felt like everyone was just breathing down my neck, and was just like, oh my god, I was just overwhelmed. I just had a massive anxiety attack and breakdown over it, because like I was like, I can't do this job, because it's just like I just couldn't maintain anything, and I was just so upset about it. And that was another big story, was I got on an acting tour, like touring around the UK, going to schools and community halls and stuff like that, taking children's plays and pantomimes. Brilliant! That's great for you, isn't it? It was a massive struggle. Simply because, again, with Asperger's, we like routine. And that was something I found very difficult, was the having to adapt to a different location constantly. Like, because if you think about it, when you're touring, you may be at one location for a week or 2 weeks at max, and then you've got to go to another location. And it was living out of a suitcase, having to change on the whim and do little things like that. That's what really did overflow my mind with anxiety, and my body was just burnt out. And again, that led to an anxiety attack, burnout, and I just went into a really dark place over it. That working environment wasn't right for me. Yeah, it's a profession I wanted to go into, but it wasn't the right working environment for me personally, and in order to just maintain it. Then I was put with a special needs support worker. Fast forward to working with this support worker, I get an interview for a local theatre, which was the theatre that I did the volunteering job for. This seemed like my ideal job because it was an environment that I liked, it was close to home, I knew where I was going to be and what my position was. I had an interview and I thought, please get this job, please get this job, please get this job, please get this job. Then I get a call and I get the job. I'm happy to say that I've been in this job for nearly 8 months. That's something I would say to anybody with Asperger's or any disability, is the fact, like, you need to find something that works for you. Like, just don't be in the position thinking about, like, oh, I've got to do this because everybody else is doing it. Now that I'm finally in the right environment, I feel at ease, and I actually look forward to going to work instead of dreading it. If you are struggling with Asperger's or autism, or want a clear definition of what each condition entails, I highly recommend I highly recommend you go check out the National Autistic Society. It's a website and a charity that helps people and families with the condition, and it just gives them support in so many different areas. My name is Scott Anthony Christie, the Auburn Phoenix, and I've got Asperger's Syndrome, and I am proud of it. Take care, guys. Too sweet, and I'll see you soon.